Hello, welcome to Telescope Talks, a product of the Telescope. My name is Sofia. I'm the social media and podcast editor.
And I'm Monica. I am the arts and culture editor.
Today, we're going to be talking about a newly released film that I'm sure you guys have heard about. It's called The Substance.
Yes, it is starring Demi Moore, Margaret, is it Qualley?
Qualley?
I'm so sorry if I'm butchering that. And Dennis Quaid.
Yes, and then the director is Coralie Fargeet. It's probably pronounced some like fancy way and I'm just butchering it. Yeah, so I saw this I think 2 days after it was released. When was it released? It was released on September 20th. So yeah, I watched it
like the week after? No, you watched it right when it came out?
I don't know. I immediately saw TikTok of it and I was like, I need to watch this.
Yeah, I remember you watched it in that weekend. I went to watch it.
Yeah,
it was
and I came into class and I was like, guys.
Dude, guys. So I just watched
my whole world shifted. It was crazy. But yeah, we're gonna do a movie review about this because it is very packed with a lot of things, and I think having two women talk about it is gonna be very, essential.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have a lot of input with this.
Yeah, so trigger warning, it is gonna have some gory, I guess, a conversation.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to be talking about spoilers.
Yeah.
I don't understand people who watch movie reviews before, not even watching the movie.
I guess, okay, I guess it works. I guess I was trying to put the trigger warning for that reason. If you're a person who is interested in the movie, but you don't like gore, you should watch this podcast.
Yeah, listen to this. So, you can get, the general message. Do not watch the movie because it was very gory.
And it's, very, audio-wise and visually overstimulating.
Very So when I watched the movie, I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
No,
I watched a TikTok edit and I was like, oh, this looks fun. The substance, a drug. Nope.
It's always the TikTok edits to get you. They make it look amazing.
But honestly, I feel like that's the best way to watch a movie is you don't really know what you're getting yourself into, and while you're watching it, you can kind of gain your own perception of the movie. But yeah, and also sorry in advance if we get sidetracked. This movie was 2 hours long.
Was it?
Yeah, 2 hours. It was 2 hours and something.
Wow, I didn't even know it was that long.
And it just was a lot.
It was.
So yeah, and then there's a lot to talk about. But yeah, I don't know. What were your initial thoughts about the movie after watching it?
Honestly, I was I need to watch this again, but it was hard for me to think about how I'm going to watch it again without being overstimulated.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
But it was so it was just so amazing, I guess, to see women in these roles that are not what you consider the delicate, it's more intense and it's disgusting and it's gory and it's wow, these people went through all these not just physically but mentally, it's a lot to go through as an actress. So I think they both did a great job, and especially with the themes of women and the pressures put on women in society. So I think it was I want to watch it again, but it was hard to convince myself how do I watch this again?
For sure. Yeah, I think for me it was also very overstimulating, but it also made me uncomfortable too. But I like that. I haven't had a movie make me feel the way this movie made me feel in so long.
Yes,
I think the last time, I think it's also the way this movie was made and the editing style too is what really brought in that kind of eerie feeling of uneasy, which I think was it's beautiful. Being uncomfortable from a film is it made it,
it does what it's supposed to do. It made me fully I was in the movie theater cringing into myself. I was covering my eyes kind of.
Yeah, no, I was covering my mouth the whole time. It was so bad. But yeah, I don't know. I think this movie was as overstimulating and how gory it was such a beautiful movie, and definitely a movie that you either have to watch again or just something you kind of have to sit with for a bit to really process what it means, because again there is a lot of different aspects. I don't know, I wrote down here that a lot of movies now especially are very woman empowerment, self-love, body positivity. Yeah. And this movie was quite the opposite of it,
yeah.
but also like kind of mirrored the same thing, mirrored the same message, but in like an opposite format. Because I feel like with a lot of these like empowerment, self-love movies, it kind of makes me think about the flaws that I have and kind of like, oh, I should love my flaws and stuff like that, you know? But this movie kind of being the opposite of like showing the flaws and like kind of showing like literally watching Elizabeth, played by, what's her name? Demi Moore, kind of go through this whole process of like, you know, this like thing, this like, literally. This whole like thing of like duplicating her body and like having like Sue like have her own life, you know, it was crazy. Kind of like, whoa, I should be like really even more thankful. Like I was more thankful of like myself and like, damn, like shit, like I'm not going through that stuff.
Well, I was just so, I agree with you that it was uncomfortable, but it was like you said, like I'm not saying that these movies that are like body positivity are like toxic in any way. I'm not saying that, but like I feel that sometimes we need to see, like, I do hate myself, you know, like in order to be like shit.
Yeah,
like,
no, exactly.
like,
yeah, for sure. And I also feel like those like, no hate to the body empowerment movies or anything. Yeah. And self-love movies, like they're so good, but I feel like sometimes they're still kind of like lacking that
reality of it.
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Like, you can still be uncomfortable with how you look.
Exactly.
And that's fine. Like,
exactly. You know? Yeah. And I think this movie kind of just like opened my eyes in a way that I haven't seen in movies a lot, you know? And it was really interesting. So
should we do a summary?
Yeah, let's actually get down.
Just talking.
So in the beginning, I know we're keep talking, guys. Clock us.
I'm so sorry, chat. Like we're gonna lock in eventually.
We're gonna lock in.
Okay.
So the beginning. Let's talk about the beginning. We see Demi. Oh, let's go through let's just do the character names.
Okay.
So. You guys should know. I'm just kidding. So we see Elizabeth as this beloved workout star that does these like TV like workout.
80s like workouts.
What are they called?
Are they like the fall? You know. I'm gonna just say it. You guys know what I mean when they're like, okay, ladies now squat.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
it's like those type
of videos
where it's like a bunch of like DVDs recorded and you watch them on your house.
Yeah, like, and it's like a little leotards and tights and everything. It's that. So we see her.
She's a famous star. She's like she's a Hollywood star of fame because she was a big star when she was like in quote unquote her prime. You know, when she was like younger. And
so
stuff.
we see the scene of her Hollywood star actually being put on the floor. Then, you know, everybody's talking about it as they pass by, and then she's kind of being like forgotten. Her star's kind of being forgotten, and people are like, oh, who was that? Like throwing food on the floor because like nobody cares for it. Yeah. Which I think it was played early on in the movie too, right?
It was like the very beginning. Yeah. It was like now she's obviously like time has passed. She's older. Yeah. And people are like, oh, like they don't really care about who she is anymore because she's like older. And she's still like barely getting off of that. Like she's doing one of her last shows, I think, right?
Yeah. And then she hid in this bathroom, and then we see Harvey, he's like the higher up, like the boss,
producer
basically.
Who's played by who? Dennis Quaid.
Quaid. And then we see him in the bathroom. This is where we see like the first like very close up shot when he's like literally taking a piss, and it's like the camera's like right. Yeah, exactly. You're like inches away, and you see him basically talking about like how he wants someone more young and youthful and beautiful for this TV show. And then Elizabeth hears it, walks out of the bathroom, and she's like, I'm screwed. What the hell?
She's like, she knows at that moment she's gonna get replaced soon. Yeah. And it's like kind of really sad to see. Sure. Like, you know.
And I think that early on, like, scene kind of shows like the kind of whole message, not the whole message, but like one of the main points of the movie of like of people in the film industry or like in like this like industry of like entertainment, kind of they're scared of like being forgotten or, you know, and, you know, not wanting to be replaced, you know. So we see that. And then we see her at the doctor's.
Yes. So what happens is like she is like going home after being basically fired, and like she sees like somebody pull down like a billboard of her, and she's like distracted, and she gets into a car accident.
Yes, that's right.
And she's like in the hospital, and she's fine. She's like only has like a fracture or something. And like that's when we see one of the doctor assistants basically kind of like feeling her up, not feeling her up, but like he's like putting the stethoscope, is that what it's called?
Yeah. She was like
on her.
Yeah, and she was like, what the hell are you doing? I thought the doctor was like
done.
You're fine.
And he's the assistant. He's like, no, just like one more checkup.
Yeah.
And we don't know what he's doing. Like it's just kind of uncomfortable and eerie. Like that he's just like checking her like back and her like spine.
Oh my god, the way he like pinches her spine. Ooh, like I'm telling you guys, really, like this movie is not like,
it's not for the weak.
Not for the weak.
Like, it's really so like it's ASMR in the best and worst way possible.
Exactly.
Like it's just so
yeah, we'll get into that. We will get into that.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and then we see him like be like, "Oh, you'd be a good candidate," and then of course she's like, "What are you talking about?" She walks out, pulls out her pocket the number. Yeah, it like changed my life or something like that, right?
It says he like wrote, he put it in her like her coat pocket, right?
Yeah,
and it says like it changed my life, and there's like
a USB.
A number? Oh, it's USB.
Yeah,
yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, USB. And then we get introduced to this guy that like
it's like a person she knew in like homeroom. Like it was like in like back
high
in
school or something, I'm assuming. And he's like, oh, we should like go on a date or something. And then he gives her his number, and it's like one of those like embarrassing moments. They like drop it in the mud, but like he still gives it to her.
And he's like a fan because he's not famous, she's famous.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, you're a superstar. Like, wow. Like,
and then she's like, oh, no. But you will see him later in the movie. She kind of just like throws it away for now. Then she goes home, plays the video.
And then we see what the substance is. Yeah.
So basically the substance is...
It's a substance.
It's a drug. It's like a liquid.
Yeah.
And the whole premise of it is like it makes a better version of yourself.
Yes.
Quote unquote, you know? And like there's all of these restrictions, like, oh, you can only switch bodies for like 7 days at a time. No exceptions. And then I think another big thing that we should talk about is how we have to remember that you guys are one. You know, like you can't.
What happens to one happens to the other, basically, essentially.
Exactly. Like you can't have separate lives. Like you guys, you have to remember that you guys are still one. Yeah,
this is like kind of like, sorry to go back to the beginning, but at the very, very beginning of the movie, we see like an injection, like an injection goes into an egg yolk.
Yeah.
And then like that egg yolk makes another egg yolk.
Yeah.
And then like in the same egg, and that's basically what happens. You make another body. From yourself. And it's like cell replication, I guess. I don't know what it is exactly, but that's the premise of the
basically. Substance. And then she was like, whatever, throws it away.
Yeah, she's like, I don't need this. Like, it's like scam or whatever.
And then she actually gets fired, correct?
Oh, yes, she doesn't get fired yet. You're right. Yeah.
She actually gets fired. Now let's talk about Harvey giving her a cooking book. So this is kind of the start of like where we really see kind of like the message of the movie, you know?
Yes. He so like he's like, oh, like to fill up your free time, so you're gonna have basically a free time because you have no job now.
Yeah.
My wife loves this, and it's a cooking book. Yeah. And it's like,
yeah, like not even like a gift card or something.
Nothing special. Book, like you've worked with her for years and you don't know anything about her. Like you just give her a cooking book, which is kind of like we interpret it as like that message that after like your beauty is quote unquote gone, all you're good for as a woman is be like the traditional homework, basically like the cooking. And it was like just like a slap in the face, basically. We didn't talk about the shrimp scene, but that happened like a little bit before that.
Oh my god. Okay, so it's Harvey and Elizabeth in this restaurant.
Yes.
I'm not even kidding. Out of everything in this movie, this scene is the one scene that sent shivers down my back.
Made my like goosebumps come out. Like it was just
so he
nasty.
has a plate of like cocktail shrimp or something and like some like mayo or like butter. I don't know what it was. But all you see is gross fingers picking up the shrimp, dipping it, his fingers full into the sauce and shoving it in his mouth and is chewing and everything. And
there's like shrimp on his like mouth. Like it's like
can't.
You hear, I'm not gonna replicate it, but it's just whatever you would think chewing shrimp out loud sounds like. It's that and like disgusting.
Like, you know, when you kind of like when you're like eating with your family or whatever and you kind of like focus too much on their chewing and like it annoys you.
Yeah,
that's what it feels like, but 10 times because of like the way the camera is angled to him. And like it's weird because like whenever we see him, like he's in such like weird angles.
He's always so distorted.
Super. And it's just like I feel like that's kind of like on purpose.
Yes.
Like that's another cool part of the movie. Like everything done in this movie is on purpose.
From the moment we see Harvey, we are forced to see him the way Elizabeth sees him, like
Yeah,
uncomfortable,
yeah,
because
exactly.
he looks gross, like
Yeah.
uncomfortable, like the entire time, like
Yeah, and also I think we're kind of meant to see him in this like eerie kind of like gross way because one, he's Amanda. No, I'm just kidding. But also like throughout the movie, I kind of see him like I even wrote it down, like he's the personification of fetishizing. What is the word? Fetishizing and selling to the audience.
But basically we're back to she's like throws away the substance away, right? She's like, I don't care about this.
So then she gets fired. Like she's like, oh, I'm over. Like nobody's gonna remember me. That's when we see her digging her out of the trash can, digging the USB drive out of the trash can, right? And then it had the phone number.
Yeah.
Called the phone number. Hey, I need this. They gave him this address,
which is the sketchiest place I've ever seen in my entire life. It's literally a garage that's.
But of course they enter the sketchiest room and it's like the most like cleanest, like doctor-esque, like, you know.
It's like white walls.
Yeah.
Like
I think we should also mention that this movie is definitely it's like they're like in a heightened reality.
Yeah, it's obviously it's supposed to make you feel like it's the real world, but it's definitely a little bit like
extra
cartoony.
Yeah,
Is it like animated? That's what I mean.
Animated. Yeah, especially like with like this, like the TV set. Oh, and that long wall. We'll get back to that long wall in a bit. But anyways, so she picks up the substance.
Yes.
She goes home. She opens it up. You see everything that you need to make a copy of yourself. Okay.
And what you need for the rest of your life, basically, when you're doing the substance.
Yeah. So then we see her in the bathroom, naked, undressed.
Yeah, fully nude. There's nothing on her.
Yeah. And she does it. She injects herself with it. And she's like,
initially nothing happens.
She's like,
and
what?
She's like, fuck, this is a scam.
Yeah,
she's
scam
like, okay.
stuff. Then all of a sudden, she's like tweaking out, like on the floor. Oh my God, I hate talking about this because I can just imagine it. So she's really tweaking out on the floor, right?
Like fully
naked.
What is that word? A seizure. She's like fully having a seizure.
No,
like,
yeah. Then there's like close-up shots of like the eyeballs like splitting in two.
Yeah, like her like back, like it's like the muscles are moving. Like it looks like her bones are making other bones. Like it's like crunching.
The sounds of that whole scene. I don't know how they were able to manage it, but they like, if that actually happened in real life, they perfected it.
They did a great job. It made me feel like I was in the room with her, and I was like, oh my God, this is really uncomfortable.
So after all that, then we see her back like split open.
It's literally like down her spine. Splits open.
Perfectly cut, by the way. Like, oh my God, like perfectly cut.
I guess it's perfectly
then we see this body
come out.
Wait, oh my God, it's so weird because we see this body come out, but then we're like in the perspective of the new body.
Oh yeah, we're seeing blurry. Yeah. Like we no longer are in Elizabeth's point of view. Like
we're in Sue's point of view now, her other body, which is I really love because it was blurry at first, and then she stands up and looks in the window, and then we see her other body. Yeah,
she's on the floor.
She's
unconscious. Elizabeth, who's played by Demi Moore, is like now on the floor. Yeah, unconscious.
And now we see what's her name, Margaret Qualley.
Qualley or Qualley?
We see Margaret,
who looks
beautiful,
stunning,
beautiful,
absolutely.
She comes out of this body. Oh, and let's also talk about like the framing, like when she's in that mirror, like when we're in that first perspective, like we actually see like the close-up shot and then like moving back into like herself, you know, like the way that camera movement.
It was crazy. It was
definitely like I was her. I was literally her. Like I just came out of that body, and I was like,
I feel like you were just reborn. Like we, as the audience, were just also born as this new person.
And then we see the shot of her like feeling herself out, like seeing her new body and stuff, and like, wow, this is me.
She's seeing how she looks like smooth, how she looks like tall, and it's like everything she dislikes about her old body is gone. Yeah, like she now has everything that's what would consider to be in a woman's prime, you know, like
for sure. So we see Sue now.
Yeah.
Sue made this amazing idea. Oh my God, the job that I just got fired is looking for a more young, full girl. Me, I already know the ins and outs of like the show.
I've literally had this job for years.
Literally, so I'm the perfect candidate. obviously she gets hired.
Yes, because she's perfect for it.
She's perfect.
And Harvey's like, you're amazing. I love
amazing.
you.
Yeah. We're making it big. But then obviously Sue's like, oh, due to like family stuff, like I can only come in every other week because of her body
situation.
Literally, like literally. But then this is when we see I think the actual like purpose of this movie was when we see Sue actually in the show, and we see like more close-up shots of her butt, like more close-up shots of her body, and like of like her movements and more sexual movements. It's
a lot more sexualized, like compared to Elizabeth's just like regular shots. Like Sue's are so much more like enhanced. Like you see every part of her. Like there's a lot of ass in this movie too. Like
a lot of ass.
Yeah. So that's like from everyone, not just Sue. But like it's, and the song is so, I think it's called Pump It Up.
Something it's like one of those classic songs.
It's like a crazy song, and like the soundtrack is awesome in this movie too.
Oh my god, yes.
I feel like I was in a rave the whole time, but like she's basically pumping it up and telling the audience like, oh yeah, let's pump it up with Sue or whatever, and she looks amazing. And you're like, she is a star. Like
and I guess one thing happened after another, and the fame kind of took over.
Yes.
That's when we really starting to see the downfall. We see her like getting like paparazzi, you know. She has like these group of friends.
She has a billboard. Like she's everywhere. And like she doesn't, you know, if somebody is like at their lowest, who wouldn't want to stay in their highest? You know, she's like in that, stuck in that mindset.
But then, of course, she kind of forgets that like she needs to be part of her. She needs to switch back to her old body. Eventually. This is when we really, really start to see the downfall, because she like takes this guy home. Yeah. It's like her last day.
And she's like drunk. She's
oh my God. Remember when she like put the zipper down and like all her guts fell out? Oh,
I forgot about that.
That one actually like made me like terrified.
She has this like bodysuit, like it's like a sexy bodysuit, and like the guy that she's trying to hook up with, like is like unzipping the bodysuit, but like we see an image that didn't happen, right?
Yeah, it didn't happen, but like
it's her imagination. And like her guts spilling out of the back of her.
It was so bad.
Crazy.
Yeah. But so this is where Sue kind of figures out, oh my God, I can like hack the system, break the system. And she gets more spinal fluid or whatever she takes out of
from her Elizabeth's body.
And she sticks it in herself so she can like stay longer. Which you're not supposed to do, obviously, but she does it anyways because she loves the fame, she loves the attention, she's happy. The fame kind of just overtakes her. It's like really the only way I can put it.
Exactly. And then she wakes up the next morning. Yeah. And her like I think it was her right hand.
Oh my God, yeah. It was
her like fingers like messed up. Like she looks like she aged 300 years in just her finger. Yeah.
Like, and it was like all like disoriented and like
what's it called? It's like nasty, and like her nails like messed up. Yeah. Like it just looks like really
wrinkly and dry and stuff. And she's like, oh, I'm not.
She calls the substance. She's like, what is this?
Yeah. Like what? And then they're all like, well,
we told you. We told you.
Also, by the way, I love the guy on the phone. Like he's so like straight up.
He's
like,
so monotone.
He's so like, monotone, but he's real though. Like
he's real as fuck. Like,
he's real as fuck.
He's like, well, it's only for 7 days.
Yeah,
like it's literally that. Well,
this is on you, girl. I love how like he made us like, this is on you. Like she should know that it was her fault. Obviously, she wasn't like taking responsibility, but
which I think now that you mentioned the monotone, I just thought about this right now. Let me know if you agree, but I think that it's definitely also the substance is made to be the like capitalization of like women's insecurities.
Yes.
And he doesn't care at all about her. Yeah. He's simply like, well,
this is on you, girl.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think the substance can mean a lot of different things of like girls' insecurities and wanting to get like Botox, lip filler, like all of these different like surgeries to make themselves like look better, you know, to society. Yeah. But it also, I feel like another like a whole different direction this movie can take is also like on drug use also, but that's like a whole other conversation.
But it was very drug like in the way of like withdrawal, like you don't want to go back to, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that was not an accident. You know, it was
no, for
like,
sure
wow,
not. Yeah,
it's kind of crazy.
And then we see Elizabeth, we see her kind of like going crazy and being like, "Oh, this is my life now." Yeah, she's like, "This is it."
I hate being the 7 days with Elizabeth, but I love the 7 days with Sue.
Yeah. And, we see Sue kind of turn into her whole person, to a whole different person, which is like not the point of the substance, because like you're not supposed to do that. She like totally like changes, revamps her house and stuff to be Sue's house, no longer Elizabeth's house, Sue's house.
She even made she built a closet, like a thing in her bathroom to hide like the Elizabeth body when she's being sued.
Yeah, that's
so
crazy.
she won't see her like at all. And I was like, you're still the same person. And I think she keeps saying like, well, she this, well, she that. Like, I don't want to be. And the person on the phone was like, you're still the same person.
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
Not, like,
and they start like blaming each other and stuff.
Yes.
But another scene we should talk about is where she like really starts taking advantage of like her powers when her neighbor knocked on her door and she was like, and he was like, oh, like, what's all this sound you're making, blah, blah. And then she opens the door and then, of course, beautiful Sue comes out. And then he's like, oh, let me, like, over here. Like, you can come over whenever you want, blah, blah, you know.
He's like, oh, if you need a handyman, I got you.
Yeah.
He's like, I got a big hammer.
Yeah,
I was like,
get out, bro. Like, please
literally
stop.
enough.
Yeah. And then we just kind of start seeing this, like, it kind of jumps back and forth. Just Sue living this like lavish life of like everybody loving her. And then Elizabeth, when we see Elizabeth, it's kind of like, I kind of feel bad for her. Like, you see her at her house.
She
like,
looks like and also we never see any family members. Like, I don't think she has, or she like cut them off or something. Like, we don't see any family.
It was very
friends.
like isolating. Like, they were both very isolated.
And she has a huge penthouse.
Huge house.
So she's like alone in this house.
Yeah. So, and then it's interesting because I feel like the movie's supposed to be made to like feel bad for both characters, but also kind of be mad at them at the same time. So in this movie, we're kind of feeling bad for Elizabeth because she's like living in filth, eating her pain away, like the food and all. She's like looking like ugly. Yeah. No, okay. I was sorry, not saying ugly, but she's like looking like not herself.
She looks miserable.
She looks miserable because Sue is literally taking her
that like
fluid,
light away.
Yeah. For
she's literally and figuratively taking parts of her out of her, like, with the spinal fluid and like emotionally.
And she's not thinking about like the effects of Elizabeth, which is, it's weird because it's like you guys are the same person, like, like you should like even it out.
Because I think she hates her Elizabeth body so much. Yeah, she's like, that's not even me anymore.
Yeah,
like, that's somebody else.
Exactly.
And that's when I think I pointed out here that like their eating is a big thing because she like when she's Elizabeth, she's like binge eating. Like she makes a bunch of crazy meals like from the cookbook that Harvey gave her, and they're not even good. Like she just makes like a bunch of like mush and just is like eating. And when she wakes up as Sue, there's like a bunch of food plates all over the apartment. Like it looks disgusting. It looks dirty. And then she's like, you have to learn how to control yourself. Like basically like she's like mad at herself for doing that, which I thought was interesting because I think the food was like a very comforting thing for Elizabeth. And we see that the way Harvey was eating, he's too comfortable. Yeah. And Sue doesn't eat anything. Yeah. I think the only thing we see Sue eat is like a Diet Coke.
Yeah, and like water. Like she's like sipping on water, yeah.
It's definitely telling of like that diet culture, of like, for I need to look perfect like at all times. So that was like, I was like, why is there so much food? And I'm like, wait, I think it's like a comfort thing. She's trying to like take care of herself, but like in the worst way. Yeah. Like she's using the worst decisions.
Yeah, for sure. And then...
Oh, the date.
Guys, we need to talk about this date.
It's bad.
So we see Elizabeth now, and she's like, okay, I need to be myself. I need to do something for myself. Sue, we can't talk about Sue. We can't think about Sue for this time when I'm Elizabeth.
I have to try to fix it. Like,
So she's like, oh, great idea. Let me dig through these boxes that Sue put away from my own house. She found the number of the guy that we see in the beginning of the movie, like gassing her up and stuff. And she calls them, and they're like, oh, let's go on a date. The date happens. First of all, Demi, gorgeous.
She looks beautiful. She has this red dress on.
Red dress.
She has long black hair. Red lip.
Ate it up.
Boots house down. Yeah. Like it's so nice. And she looks beautiful. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's actually gonna go on the date. And I'm excited for her.
I'm happy for that she's doing something for herself. And like and we kind of like have this feeling that she feels like she looks beautiful too.
Yes.
And then we see her opening the door. And then she like looks at herself in the doorknob or something.
Yes.
Right.
And obviously the doorknob makes her look distorted. So I think she freaks out about that.
Yeah, she freaks out. And then we see her going back and forth of like, oh, like I can cry thinking about it.
It makes me so sad.
It makes me so sad. Like she's like changing her outfit, and then she like does her makeup,
like,
and then
again and again.
And then we see her have this full on mental breakdown with her makeup and like doing her makeup. She's like rubbing the lipstick and like her mascara or whatever. And
then she's just like rubbing her face like furiously.
Yeah. And then it's just like, and then the guy is just like waiting.
We see like her phone.
Yeah.
And he's texting her like, hey, can you still make it? And he's like, I know a big star like you likes to make a big entrance. And I was like,
oh my God. And then we see her just like laying on her bed, like,
yeah, super sad.
She just quit. Like she just failed. And it just makes me so sad because I think that scene really like captured like what women feel like they have to do to like meet society's expectations, you know?
Yes.
And I can like, as I have never like gone crazy and like done my like gone like having a full mental breakdown of like doing that, but I can definitely relate to like wanting to change myself.
Yes.
To meet what? I don't know. But whatever's in my head, to meet whatever is in my head.
The standard that you think is like the most perfect.
Exactly.
And like, I think I saw a comment on TikTok, I think, but somebody was talking about how she was so real for like, I sometimes try to do like a full face of makeup. Yeah. And then like, when you see like one eyebrow's more taller than the other, and you're like, or your eyeliners doesn't match, and you do it over and over and over again. And that like feeling of, literally no one's gonna notice that your eyeliner's longer on one side than the other. Yeah. But you feel like everybody notices. Exactly. Because like if you don't look perfect at all times, it's like I shouldn't even go out like at all.
Exactly.
And I was like,
and it just sucks because like it's so, I love that they showed this scene and like how they portrayed it too is like beautiful because of her. You like just every aspect of it, like somebody, woman or not, like you can relate to it.
Yes.
And meeting these like impossible standards. And it's just like, it like really like, I think that really helped bring it back into like our reality a lot.
Yeah.
And it was just like,
it was so sad.
It was so sad. And I was reading this Reddit thread about the movie and everybody was saying like, oh my God, Demi looked beautiful. Like, why did she change herself? Like, blah, blah, blah. She looks beautiful for her age and stuff like that. And then people were like, saying like, oh well, that's like kind of the point of the movie, like we're defeating the purpose of like saying all this stuff about Demi and whatnot. And then I read this one comment and it said, frankly, she looks fantastic for someone half her age too, which I do think is the point of the movie. The beauty standards for women are so impossible, even Demi Moore can't live up to them. And it's like, whoa, like this,
you guys they cooked with that one.
They literally did. And it's just like, oh my, it's just, it's
almost like a backhanded comment of, she looks great
for her age.
Yeah.
It's that's, like, oh, those backhanded, yeah, exactly. And it's just like, not even that scene, but just all of the scenes, just particularly this makeup scene just makes it so real for us. And it's just like, damn.
That's when like, I guess we see towards she goes kind of cuckoo nuts. Like she goes crazy.
Then we see her cuckoo nut craze.
She goes like absolutely crazy because she, at some point, the New Year's Eve special.
Yes.
So Harvey comes up to Sue. And he's like, everybody loves you. You gotta be in this New Year's Eve special. Yeah. Like, and it's happening in New Year's, obviously.
And she was like, fuck yes, like I'm doing this shit. Like, yes.
Like, of course. But she is caught up in her life, her fabulous life, that she continues to take spinal fluid from Elizabeth for 3 months.
3 months straight.
3 months.
Yes.
If one day made her finger look messed up, you could probably guess what 3 months does to you.
Yeah.
Like,
this is, yeah. So then you see her spine. Oh, this like black, like.
Oh, it's like pus coming out because she keeps injecting like the spinal fluid out.
And just so she can do this keep looking show. Yeah, exactly. And then so comes
she wakes up. And as Elizabeth, because she eventually has to switch out.
Yeah,
she wakes up have any more spinal fluid, right?
Yeah. So she has to wake up so she can. Oh yeah, she calls the guy and like, you need your body to like regenerate. So she
or whatever
regenerates.
It is. I don't even know if it's spinal fluid. But
Oh, that's right. And then she had like that boyfriend, right? That came in.
She had a guy over, or it's like her boyfriend. Like, they live together.
Some guy, whatever.
And they're like. He's like, oh, let's go to bed. And then she starts bleeding out of her nose because that's what happens when you don't have any more spinal fluid. And she's bleeding out of her nose. She's like dizzy. Yeah. She's like, hold up, I'll be right back.
Yeah. And then she tried to take some. There's black. No more. So then she called the guy and she was like, what is going on? And it was like, girl, like, what else do you think was going to happen?
3 months, bro.
Yeah. So she had to like go into Elizabeth back, and this is when we see like
she's
cuckoo.
deformed.
Yeah,
she's like her knees messed up, like she can't walk right.
Yeah,
her back's kind of like
it's all kinds of messed up.
Yeah, it's just like
in every way you can imagine it like 10 times worse.
She has like gray hair, like
her hair is like practically gone, like stuff like. So then we see then I think that moment we kind of see like the separation of Elizabeth and Sue. Like, wow, you guys are two completely different people.
Yes.
Like Elizabeth started getting mad at Sue over this interview of like when the guy was like, oh, how do you just like be so blah blah blah,
how
like,
do you stay true to yourself?
Yeah, and she's like, oh well, just like hard work.
Yeah, she's like hard work. Yeah. And she's like, you don't work any day in your life. Like she's like crazy. She's talking to herself like on the TV.
Yeah.
And she's like, she's cooking her meals again that like Harvey gave her. And she's like, you're ungrateful, like little, and she says like a bunch of bad like words, she's like mad at Sue because she's not being truthful clearly because she can't be saying what's going on.
Yeah.
I think I'm messing up the timeline a little bit because it's not yet when she wants to terminate. It's like when she's fully bald that she wants to terminate, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. I forgot specifically, but she told the guy, I don't want any more.
At some point. Yeah. She's like, okay, this is bad. Like she's like in her most deformed state. Like she looks like the hunchback. Yeah. Like it's bad. And she's bald. She's like, I want to terminate. Yeah. She calls the substance guy. She's like, I want to finish it. Yeah. And he's like, are you sure? She's like, yes. Mm-hmm.
So she covers up. Oh my God, that yellow coat. I'm sorry. Is that the only yellow coat you own?
She's rich and she has one coat. Like, I don't know why she keeps using that yellow coat.
No, get that away.
Yeah.
So she like obviously tries to like cover herself and she looks like an old lady hunchback.
Yeah.
And she got the termination. Mm-hmm. And then I forgot what happened.
Like she goes and gets Sue. Yeah. And she's like injecting it into her heart, basically. Like the termination. Yeah. It's like a black liquid. Yeah. And then she's having a bunch of flashbacks of her like living a wonderful life as Sue. And right when she's about to finish the injection, she pulls it out. She's like, I can't do it. Like I can't do it. And then Sue wakes up. No, she gets like the connection with the blood. Yeah. It's like the connection that unites both bodies.
Yeah. So she can switch back.
So she can switch back. Yeah. And she gets it so she can switch back to Sue. And she switches. What happens is she revives her while she's still Elizabeth.
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, I totally forgot about that. Yes.
So she's awake in both bodies. Yes. And Sue looks at the vial and she knows she wanted to kill me. Yeah. She wanted to terminate me. And she goes nuts. Yeah. Like, she starts chasing her around the house.
Oh my God. Yes, they have like a whole like fight scene.
They have a whole fight scene where she's like, Sue grabs Elizabeth and smacking her against the mirror. Like breaking her nose. Like it's intense.
Oh my God. I kind of found it funny because why is this old hag like, but she's like,
why is she beating this old woman? Yeah, like it's herself, but it's like, I was like, should I call 911 right now?
No, literally, like, I felt like, what the heck is going on?
It looked so scary. And I felt like I needed to intervene because it was so intense and like loud. And she basically almost kills Elizabeth, her older body, who's like deformed. Yeah. And she's like, I think she's like on the floor, like unconscious. And Sue's like, all right.
Sue had this great idea of injecting herself with the substance again.
So she goes back to the New Year thing, but she starts bleeding.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
So she's about to do the New Year's Eve special. Yeah. And she goes, but like she is tweaking out because like she doesn't have spinal fluid.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's when we go back to her house.
Yeah. And then she had this amazing idea, right? Mm-hmm. Of getting this.
She gets the vial that's
the green juice.
The green activator. Yeah. That's only supposed to be used once. It says strictly in the instructions, only activate once. Yes. And she's like, I'm going to do it again. She's like crying.
Like, why wouldn't this work? Like,
of course, it's worked before. Yeah. Like, and she's like begging, crying. She's like, please make me a better version of myself. Please, please, please. She's like crying. Like, because she's about to have her New Year's Eve special in like an hour. Yeah. And she's like running to her house. She gets the thing, puts it on.
Uh-oh.
What we see.
I wrote it hunchback monster looking thing.
And these big bold letters come out that say Monstro Eliza Sue. Yes. Or Alyssa Sue, whatever. You have Elizabeth's face like in
on
her
the back. Yeah.
You have Sue's like eye on her side. Yeah. Like it's like, and she has like a monster face.
It's like
with like ears sticking out.
Yeah,
like,
it's like
mouths everywhere. Like it just looks crazy.
Yeah, and like she like can't talk. Like
and I think it was prosthetic. I don't think that was CGI. Yeah,
I have an image here. It's so I have no words. It's just like gross. It was gross.
It was bad.
And so then she had this like whole freak out, and then we see her put this mask. She cuts out this photo of herself, right? And she tapes it on her face.
And it's literally her like poster as Elizabeth when she was like in her prime, right? Yeah. Like, and it's like because she's like, she looks deformed. So she just like kind of cuts it off, the poster, puts it on, and goes to the New Year's special. She puts on the dress,
and she walks to this New York special. And it was weird. What really weirded me out was how like they didn't really like say anything.
No.
You know, like they didn't like, they saw the poster of her face. Like, oh yeah, come right in. You're Sue. Like you're part like, of the New York special. New Year's special. Until then she was on stage and they were like panning the camera to like the guests and like they weren't really saying anything until she like cut her arm off or something. What was it? She like started bleeding everywhere.
I think somebody came up and like attacked her.
Oh yeah. Somebody found her, somebody like locked in.
And the audience was like, what the heck is this? Yeah. And like, what's his name? Dennis Quaid's character?
Harvey.
Yeah, Harvey was like, because he had all these sponsors kind of like waiting there like to see Sue. Yeah. And then like some guy from the audience comes up and like attacks her and like rips her arm off. Yeah. And she's like bleeding out everywhere.
This is where like the horror aspect actually comes into play because blood. That's all I can say about this scene. Truly. Spraying all over the crowd, which is like, whenever I see that scene, like I literally wonder like how I would feel if I was like being sprayed with blood.
Dude, I would freak out.
I would freak out.
Because like, I instantly think of like disease. Yeah. You know, and if somebody's blood was like in my eyes or in my mouth, I would freak out. Yeah. Like that's so scary.
So gross. What happens at the... Oh, yeah, she walks towards her Hollywood star, remember?
Yes, and she's, like, limping because she's, like... People, like, attacked her. They try to, like, go get her on the stage.
And then all of a sudden, she turns into this, like, goop. Yeah. This goop of herself, right?
She's, like, a goop because, like, in the back of the monster is, like, Elizabeth's face. Yeah. Like, she's, like, not able to speak. And she just... Like, that goop, that section of her back, just, like, kind of breaks away from the gug monster, whatever it is. And just like drags herself towards her star, like that's Elizabeth's star.
And I think that kind
of Sparkle. Sorry, Elizabeth Sparkle.
Yeah. And then that's where it kind of connects back to the theme of like staying true to yourself, remembering who you are. But I think that overall message is super well implemented into this movie in such like a different way that we are so unused to.
Because it's like it's not even like happy ending, she found herself. Yeah. It's like she lost herself so bad that she came back to hoping she could be back, like who she was.
Which obviously, she saw the movie, she can't.
Yeah, she clearly can't. She's like a glock and like a blob of something. And then she just like disintegrates, right? She just disintegrates into nothing. Yeah. I think it's the most scary in the ways of like, whenever you're scared of going to the doctor, all of that, like the sounds, the feeling, the like vaccines, anything like that is like very huge in this movie, but it's also so real that like it's like painfully real. Like it's but it's so, I think like you said, beautiful in some way because it's the ugly sides of like hating who you look like, what you look like.
And I think that kind of goes back to like the Reddit post that we were talking about when the person said how we're so used to these like movies talking about body positivity and stuff, where it kind of like then makes you think about all this stuff that we should be like body positivity over, you know?
Right.
But this kind of movie kind of makes you thankful of what you have. I think in our age and
we're like in our 20s.
20, you know? But even like ladies, you know, women just in that kind of time in their life are like, what am I doing with my life? With this, like, you know, that are kind of like are more aware of like their being, you know? Yeah. I think it's so well for them to kind of watch this movie and kind of really form their own perspective on it. And especially men, I think I watched this with my friend and they were uncomfortable. And I think it's also important for them to be uncomfortable and realize this side of like humanity.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, even though it's a very exaggerated version of it, like the realities of somebody explained it really well on a video, but it was like the realities of being a woman is like constant discomfort. Yeah. And I think like, I'm not trying to say like men should also feel discomfort, but like, I think it's like a thing that needs to be shown to them. Yeah. You know, to
something
really
they should be aware of.
Yeah. Something to just be aware of, like, it's not like I'm trying to punish you, but hey, you should take a look at what we face.
And also, we're not like asking them for forgiveness or anything.
No.
We just want y'all to know, because y'all do not face at least 10th of the pain and suffering that women do.
You know, that's a movie. It ends. Yeah. Reality as a woman doesn't end. Like, it just continues day after day, you know? So
yeah, that's
crazy.
But yeah, I don't know. That was our movie review. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I definitely recommend watching this movie. So I really hope that like this type of movie kind of makes a change in the industry to like actually see these pieces of like of art and like
body horror like should be seen more. Mm-hmm.
So that's my big take. If we were rating it like out of 10, I definitely give it like a 9 out of 10, only because I walked into it blindly and I was not ready for all that gory stuff.
Yeah,
but
true.
That's basically my only critique.
I would say maybe 9 out of 10 as well. I was going to say 8 out of 10 just because it was just my personal take. I think it's hard for me to watch it in the movie theater because it was kind of overstimulating. Yeah. In some parts it was really loud.
Yeah.
You know, but I think if you watch it like at home, you can still have a good experience and not like freak out about it because it was a lot. But I think I would for sure watch it again, just like with a different lens and the safety of my own home, you know, without it being too loud.
Yeah, I definitely think just last thing I will say is like, it's one of those movies that like you only watch one and you think about forever, but you won't watch it again.
No, true. But it'll stick with you.
Yeah, it'll stick with you. We appreciate you guys for listening, and hopefully you take whatever we said, you know, into consideration. Yeah. You can follow us on our TikTok. It's at the Telescope Palomar, or on Instagram, _telescope. And you can keep up to date with our website and whatever's going on. Again, this episode of Telescope Talks was by Sofia Alvarez, the podcast and social media editor.
And Monica Garcia, the arts and culture editor. Thank you.